Good evening and welcome to the John Morse room. This is a very historical room in American grim history, and it is a very highly requested room for overnight stays here at the Lizzie Historical Boredom Axe Murder Museum, and it's also known as the Murder Room. So Mrs. Boredom would be last seen alive at 9 a.m. by her stepdaughter Lizzie Boredom and her maid Bridget. Lizzie's sister Emma would not be a witness to the murder, or was she present at all at that time. She was not there, nor was Mr. Boredom and Uncle John. They were both at Fall River. So the only person present at this time was Lizzie, and her testimony was that she was downstairs ironing her handkerchiefs. So at 9:30 a.m., Mrs. Boredom would be pronounced dead. She would be found in a pool of her own blood, and there would be no signs of struggle, and there wouldn't be any indication if she was not facing her attacker or if she was facing her attacker and did not put up a fight. We do know where the wounds were located on Mrs. Boredom. She suffered from a total of 19 blows and wounds. The first wound she suffered from was towards the top of her head on the left hand side of her ear. The second wound she suffered from was in between her shoulder blades, and it was 4 inches deep. The remaining 17 wounds will be towards the back of her head and neck. It's a total of 19 wounds that she suffered from before her murder. During this time, Mrs. Boredom would be in a pool of her own coagulated blood, and this also would be the same room that John slept in prior to Mrs. Boredom's murder, and it would also be an hour and a half before Mr. Boredom's death. So there's a big loop around, and there's a whole spiral to this whole Lizzie Boredom story if you're interested in knowing more. On the wall, you would see a photo of the autopsy and where it was done in the living room. This photo, you will clearly see Mrs. Boredom laying face down in the pool of coagulated blood, as well as a little key detail. If you look closely, you will see that there's the camera taking the photo within the reflection in the mirror of the photo. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.